Up.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
My first comments are not mine. They're an anonymous statement from a family that lives in Love Canal, and they heard about the Weaver subdivision. And this is their comments. It is with a heavy heart that I am writing this. Our family has heard about the recently proposed subdivision off Nash Road. We are very concerned for the health and well-being of the people that would potentially live there, as well as many current residents of the surrounding neighborhood. We live in the Love Canal neighborhood and have for many years. Before we moved in, we were told that it was the cleanest place to live in Niagara Falls, which is not saying much anyway. Since that time, we've experienced many weird smells, saw many strange puddles, men working in Tyvek suits. We try not to play in the puddles or the grass, spend too much time in our basements, or drink the water, as well as experiencing daily headaches, rashes, passing out, heart palpitations, breathing problems, just to name a few. Our neighbors have equal problems, and oddly enough, on the same days. In addition to those problems, we have heard of neighbors having lupus, GI problems, heart problems, seizures, bleeding problems, blood work abnormalities, cancers, hormone problems. Hopefully, you're starting to get an understanding of the gravity of the situation. Unfortunately, I don't have time here tonight to continue the ever-growing list of problems our neighborhood endures. I am hoping, however, that maybe sharing our story will spare the same situation from happening to additional people. Hopefully, the subdivision will not be allowed, and the people that already are being affected near Nash Road will get the help they deserve. It is much easier to do the right thing originally than it is to ignore the problems caused by companies just trying to make a quick buck. They clearly have not learned this at Love Canal, since the problems continue. It would be wonderful if the people making this decision would put the communities and residents first and make the right choices by not going through with plans to turn that disaster waiting to happen into anything. That's the end of their statement. I've been going through, there have been 80, this is now my comments, there have been 80 chemical compounds identified in the original Love Canal landfill. And I'm very certain that you're going to find those same 80 chemicals in the current Nash Road landfill. Ignorance by the town board and planning board will no longer be tolerated as an excuse for dangerous or bad decisions. The proposed Weaver subdivision needs to be stopped immediately. Current residents have already had their health and safety endangered, and any further development in this area is irresponsible, careless, and dangerous. There will be no more passing of the buck. You all take responsibility. This town board has blamed the former supervisor for financial irresponsibility. This town board is making the town an uninhabitable toxic cesspool. Finances can be repaired, toxic waste and death cannot. This is going to be your legacy. Thank you.
Yes, Brian.
Hi, as I said, my name is Sarah Krause, and I'm a resident of North Tonawanda, and I live on Forbes Street. And I'm here to really impress upon you guys that this Weaver subdivision cannot go through. I am a Love Canal kid. I was born in Love Canal, and my family was evacuated in 1981. They moved directly to Forbes Street, being told that this was safe for them to raise their small family. This is us at Love Canal. This is my brother, sister, and I in front of our house. This is our house now. This is what it looks like now in Love Canal. This is where I used to play. This is a playground that is now fenced in 99th Street. The house we moved into in Love Canal in North Tonawanda in 1981 after Love Canal. I don't want to see that house looking like this. I don't want another family to come in with young children and have them plagued with the health problems that I'm plagued with. I'm constantly nauseous, continual headaches. I can show you scars from countless surgeries, pain that cannot be explained, lumps, tumors. I cannot carry my own children because of a lump, because of a 1-pound tumor that engulfed my reproductive organs, and those had to be removed. And I cannot believe that you will think that just because you're on the other side of this toxic dump, that that's not going to happen to everybody else. I'm not the only one who has these health problems. There was a group of us that used to hang out back there. We were never told, there was never a posted sign, we were never told that there was anything back there that could harm us. Meanwhile, residents that I've now spoken to at the time tell me how they saw workers physically emptying out barrels right before my family is moving into the street and being told that it's safe. They were given a map by the Homeowners Association from Love Canal, locating over 200 different sites in western New York that is not safe to move their family. And the Wheatfield dumps is missing out of this. And when my father, when we found the house on Forbes, my father asked directly, what is this land for? What was it used for? And he was told it had never been developed, it has never been used, and it is only wetlands. So we thought we were safe. And here I am, 35 years later, with health problems that make me unable to work, that make me have to go to about a doctor every 3 doctors a week.
Okay.
It's not healthy. It's not safe. My mom is a cancer survivor. We've seen the barrels. They weren't just buried. They were on the ground. They were in a pond, an orange glowing pond that gave us chemical burns.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just a couple of questions, the usual subject, Quasar. I wanted to ask if you got a chance to request the FOIL for the documentation they submitted to the DEC for the Royalton spreading. I requested it at the last meeting.
Due to the holidays, it hasn't gone out, but it's on my desk. It'll probably go out tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay.
But I put that together in
That would be great.
during the couple days we've had off.
All right. Then the next thing I wanted to bring up is Quasar is self-regulating, and it seems like we're just supposed to trust whatever they say. And in the beginning of this process, they were supposed to send to the DEC once a year everything that had been put in the tank. And I've asked about it several times. They were supposed to give us a manifest, or give the DEC a manifest, which was then to be turned over to the town of what was put in the digester. To date, have we received that?
No.
Okay, so my question is now, you know, they're not being compliant, or we're not pushing them, however you want to look at it, to get that information. So if something were to happen with whatever's coming out of that tank, some adverse event, whether it's just, you know, the farmer's land is contaminated, water's contaminated, a spill, what have you, but an adverse event, call it, would the town be liable in any way in addition to Quasar and the DEC for lack of enforcement? I'm just wondering what our, you know, if it can come back to haunt us because they're not giving us what we want, and, you know, we need to make sure they're being compliant. And then the second comment I have, that's a question, but the second comment I have, been doing some reading and some information I've gathered from other people that are dealing with spreading of biosolids. And there's a thought now that repeated applications, whether it's Class A or Class B or EQ, will, with multiple applications, as little as 3, produce low-level Superfund sites. So I just wanted you to be aware that those studies are up and coming. But back to the liability issue, the question.
With regard, I'm not aware of any cause of action that would be against the town. That doesn't mean there might not be one that could develop in the future, but I'm not aware of anything right now, and I know we've talked privately in emails. We are trying to get the information and information you requested, and I know you foiled some of it that we did receive.
It was very interesting.
And we're working, as I mentioned, to get some more information. But as far as a cause of action, I mean, right now, there's no, the town government, there's no regulatory EPA or DEC with the town government. We do not have our own department of that. Those issues really are supposed to be governed by the DEC. So, and we've seen the DEC when they made decisions or flip-flopped. They have very few lawsuits against them have been successful.
But it still could end up being a nuisance. All I'm saying is that I think that we need to protect ourselves by taking every course of action to hold Quasar accountable to our laws and to what the promises that they've made. And you know what the history is right now with this company. So I'm trying to make sure that, to bring this to your attention to see that we're not going to be on the hook for something else, even if it's not a successful lawsuit, but something more liable in the event whatever's coming out of that digester is not appropriate for a field and taints 18 Mile Creek and Lake Ontario. You saw the national government just banned microbeads. They're doing a reverse. I just hope we don't have to reverse. So I think we need to look into it.
But, and just to follow up with regard to that, as you know, the law that's being challenged is a law that prevents the spreading in the town of Wheatfield, one of the most restrictive, or the most restrictive in the state, and that's what we're waiting for. Part of that ruling back from Judge Caruso, which has been so long in forthcoming, but we have outlawed it here. The state and Department of Ag and Markets and the state DEC, they in fact, as you're aware, are sort of in favor of this type of spreading, and they're allowing it and recommending it. So right now, if there would be any cause of action down the road, I would think it would be more aimed at the state, because at this point we're on the cutting edge, so to speak, with regard to preventing it. Other towns don't prevent it. We'll see how the lawsuit goes. But at this point, we're the most restrictive. So, and what's coming out of there, that is also governed by state rules and regulations. So I don't really see anything against the town, although we're trying to keep their feet to the fire. And I know we've been providing and asking for a lot of information. We don't have a specific DEC department. We don't have the resources to get everything or look at everything.
Okay, since you haven't foiled or gotten it, if you could just add a line onto that and ask for all the manifests and state that we've never received anything, and the digester's been operational for 2 years.
I certainly will. And if
Let's have a
before I
private
get
meeting.
that out, maybe we can talk tomorrow or so. I know we've talked, or shoot me an email,
That'd be great.
and we'll make sure we include it all.
All right, great, thank you.
Brian?
Hi, I'm here to talk about the Weaver subdivision. We know that there's Love Canal waste buried there, so on and so forth. The other thing is, due to the incidence of cancer, and in particular thyroid cancer, that would indicate radioactivity. Now, I went with someone I know, and we took some equipment there and walked the area where the subdivision is planned. We found spots there where the radioactive levels were 3 times higher than they were at the street. Now, are these levels significant? Speaking to an environmental engineer I know, he said that if the material was buried, you would still get higher readings in the area where it was buried, but it may not be significant because it's got to filter through all the dirt. But in the case of digging up there, digging basements and so forth, you're going to disturb those elements and release the radioactivity. This could also be a reason why Canada would not accept the waste for incineration. Radioactivity does not incinerate. It would be released into the air. I think there are just far too many questions. There are far too many studies that need to be done there. In particular, on the waste, on radioactivity in the area, it's just got to be halted.
Those are things which would come up during the seeker process, and so far the seeker process has not been started.
Okay, but I know that I went to a planning board meeting, and when I asked the engineer that's involved with the project, I was informed by her that they do not have to do toxic sampling. They don't have to do any core sampling. They don't have to do anything at all there other than put the roads in and build the houses. The arrogance was just a little off-putting, shall we put it that way. I think the town should require that all this is done before we even think about going ahead with this. Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say
I was
something?
just gonna say the same, it's part of the seeker process. If that's gonna happen, it has to be done during the seeker process.
Only if it's specified.
Right, well, that's right.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. The town board meeting, they put the videos of them online, available on the website, and then they connect, it's a link connects you to YouTube. Sometimes there's public comment on there, sometimes there's not. What makes that happen?
I talked to Don about that because I got that as an email just a few weeks ago, and he says it has to do with the amount of time involved, that he can only put so much on a CD and carry it over in.
That doesn't work out with, I don't know, I went back
That's-
through it because
That was the answer I got, Debbie.
Because that didn't work out with the times. I went back through the different dates for back all the way to January, and then I picked some random back in June and August, say, and it didn't, it timed it, noise seemed to make a difference whether they were on or not. But the most recent one that I noticed they were not on was December 7th, and it was notable because there was a lot of people here at that meeting, there was a lot of public input, and I just thought that the public should be able to see it. But just a suggestion, if the time thing, and it, like, I don't know if it goes on a CD, what about doing a part 1 and part 2 CD? I see it all the time of the videos, so that we could have, it just seems like it'd only be fair to the residents to have all of it on there.
Thank you.
Hello. I picked up the fracking waste moratorium by the door. Is this for us to look over and comment on beforehand?
It is brought up by one of the councilmen as a possible motion for this evening. There hasn't been a whole lot of time for the board to do any consideration of this because we only got it this weekend.
Okay. A couple questions. First of all, thank you very much for listening and for writing this up. It doesn't say in here, and I just saw it tonight, so at first glance, it just doesn't say anything in here about gaseous waste. For example, the one thing that we're very concerned about living near a dehydrator would be benzene emissions. Benzene would not be in regular natural gas, it's only in fracking gas, but it would come out, I mean, I guess it would be vapor, through vapor, but it's more gaseous than liquid or solid, if you're talking about the molecular level. So would we be able to do something where we talk about some kind of gaseous waste? I know you're trying not to say methane or natural gas, but
Well, I know we talked about when we met issues with regard to the fracking waste and the discussion which has come up recently, not just
Yes.
with regard to the idea of a dehydrator, but of actually people spreading it for various reasons, including because of its salinity, putting it on roads to de-ice, which then obviously there's a whole myriad of concerns. I think your, I guess, comment with regard to the gaseous part is with regard to the dehydrator itself, if that's my
yeah,
understanding.
I was kind of looking at it macroscopically, like all wastes associated with fracking.
Right.
So it would be gaseous, which would be the dehydrator piece. That's what we're worried about living in the neighborhood next to it. And it would be stuff that we would use on roads, which would be, you know,
Right.
the stuff that I think it specifically talks about in here.
Well, and part of it, and going back to your first question, and I think as we met, and I told the board as well, when we met, my initial thought was, based on the holidays, we were going to try to get it for the next meeting, the
Correct.
25th in the town here. But because of the interest by the board, I accelerated the schedule and brought it out tonight, albeit a little bit late, and everyone was just seeing it, and it wasn't part of the regular agenda. So it is, going back to your question, is it up for comment? Still, yes, it is.
Okay.
I mean, if we can pass it in perhaps this form tonight and then get more input, and you can contact me or the board members or the supervisor, could we add to it? That's certainly a possibility.
It's a possibility, okay.
But this is something, and also there was an additional second proposed resolution recommending something at county level, which, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just end it at the border of Wheatfield when you got Pendleton right next to us, and so, let's make it a little bit more countywide and unified and recommending it to the county level. So, it's sort of a stopgap measure perhaps while the county, analyzes it well. And like it says at the end of it, if it takes more time than an initial 6-month moratorium, well, then there's a possibility of extending it.
Okay.
But it was an effort over the holiday weekend to try to get something before the board and for the public to review.
Okay.
I know after the last meeting, I did some more research, and I actually found we're 12 counties, and I think maybe now since our last meeting, there could be 13 counties, but and counting, and Niagara County would be another one. But Erie County's already enacted the ban, and looking through, not all of them had their sample resolution out there, or whatever resolution they passed, but some of them did. I know Matt Brooks, our town attorney's looked at all the language, but trying to go after the fracking that's in the dehydration part of it, I don't know if they come right out and say that. They're calling it fracking waste for de-icing and for, putting into the sewer treatment plants, but, some of it sounds like it could be applicable, but it doesn't.
If we could just include something about, all 3 states of matter, I would feel a lot better about it.
Yeah.
And, just hearing Sarah speak, I started to cry because I can't imagine what you've been through. And I hope it struck a chord with you too that starting the new year, we really need to start being proactive. We're in an area that I think is one of the most unique in the United States as far as where we've been with chemicals, and we need to set the stage. I know we're working step by step, but I think we're always a step behind. We need to just get out in the forefront. And, we need to be restrictive with things having to do with chemicals here because we have all these chemicals here, and we still have people who are dealing with this. I don't want to see generations and generations going through the same hurt and pain. So I thank you for your steps we're taking, but I think we need to have a vision to be more proactive with these sort of things.
I know the town of Pendleton, their action team is also looking at the same moratorium, and they're going to be petitioning Niagara County legislators to enact a ban also. So.
Great.
And I would suggest the board will look at that, I'm assuming, tonight.
Okay.
When we go through the motions, but as I said, and I think as I told you the other day when we met, feel free, you've got my contact information, specifically what you would like me to see to add in the future. Just if they pass it tonight doesn't mean it can't be modified.
Okay.
So please feel free to let me know.
Thank you.
So this moratorium can be a working document. We can work with this, Matt, over the 6 months. We're not going to make monthly changes, but we could make a couple of changes to tweak it a little bit if we have to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be. This is not. It isn't in the form of a local law. A local law would take much longer to enact. A moratorium is something that is, temporary, but sort of instantaneous in the fact that once we pass it, it will be the rule that we're going to follow. A local law takes a lot more time. Not only there's publishing, posting, public comment period, public hearings, then it has to be filed with the Secretary of State of the state. This is something that we could move with a little bit faster. And if it's not restrictive enough or too restrictive, there is some wiggle room to adjust it. So, like I say, it was expedited even faster than what we thought coming the next meeting of the month. We tried to get it in tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Brian? Jen?
Hello, Jennifer Wozniak. I'm also going to just make a couple mentions about the dehydrator and the pipeline. First off, Matt, thank you so much for expediting that, and I strongly urge all of you tonight to approve the moratorium because it is a really great step in the right direction. It really shows that you guys support us and that you're backing us and that you're hearing us, and that really goes a long way. So I really want to, take some time and thank you for that. A couple other comments. Thank you so much, Bob, for making the copies. I'll pick them up in a few minutes, maybe from you. I don't know where they are.
After the meeting.
Okay. So I just want to thank you so much for making those copies. I know that National Fuel was unwilling, or they didn't want to mail them out to anyone farther than a half a mile, which would be, my house. So I wouldn't get one directly from National Fuel. So this notice that the board is willing to, out of their own time and money, print off for us is going to go to great use. I have a group of volunteers going out this week to distribute these and go door to door, about 1.5 miles to 2 miles outside of this dehydration facility. So we're going to be putting them at some hot spots. We're going to be putting them at libraries. We're going to be going door to door. So that's what's going to happen over the next week to inform and educate our residents about this meeting on January 13th. My second point is I just wanted to also make sure that all of you guys were going to the January 13th meeting. It is really important to show solidarity, not only with our board, but also the community. I hope that you guys stand beside us to express our concerns. I strongly encourage you to do some research, do some Google things, YouTube some things, check out our Facebook page, Wheatfield Action Team, and do your research so that you can ask those tough questions with us. There are other areas having issues with the gas pipelines, other natural gas companies, so that's something that you can definitely take a look at. And I just wanted to make sure we still haven't gotten an answer, Mr. Cliff, about the alternative with no emissions from National Fuel.
That's correct. That's the one question I've asked that they have not answered.
So they've answered all of your other questions very quickly, right? Just like they've been getting back to me.
Usually within a day, yeah.
And then this question is still floating out in no man's land. So
That's
I'm
correct.
really hoping that's something that you can, bring up at this meeting and strongly suggest, because I really feel that this alternative with no emissions would put most of the residents' minds at ease.
In reality, there's very little that the town or you folks are going to be able to do to stop this thing from coming.
Mm-hmm.
At least from everything I've heard. What I hope we can do is hold their feet to the fire. That maybe things like that, a minor change like that, might be a major change for us. And whatever they give us for answers, make sure that we in the planning board hold them to those answers.
Mm-hmm.
If they say it's going to be 99% clean off a fuel that's already clean burning, what's in the 1%? How much is it? What happens if it goes beyond 1%?
Yeah.
What happens if it becomes 2 or 3? And we can control those kinds of things.
Yeah. I know our goal is, nothing, no percentage. So, and I know that this has been the company line, that we don't really have much to do with it, and we don't really have a choice, and FERC's going to do whatever FERC's going to do. However, that doesn't mean that we can't fight for it, and it doesn't mean that we can't make their lives miserable until this thing actually goes in. So, I really, as our elected representatives and, who took an oath to serve and protect our community, I'm really requesting that we do this moratorium. I hope you approve that, as well as, I know when I was speaking with Matt over the holiday break, to file some type of a report like Pendleton's that expresses our concerns and our issues. Pendleton's report is very telling, and I hope you'll take some time to read it, but also outline some possible alternatives, other than just the alternative dehydrator, but maybe some alternative areas, putting it somewhere where there are no people, not in Wheatfield. So I'm hoping that we can, as a group, come together and file this report. I think it'll be a great showing, once again, that we're not willing to put up with this. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, if I could follow up on that. One point with the materials that are in the fracking gas when they dehydrate it, trying to find out from National Fuel, and it would help if we get more people to ask the same question. I'm not getting any answers either. So, but is there a difference between regular natural gas that they dehydrate and dehydration of gas that's been fracked? Are there different chemicals that are going to be emitted in the emissions for fracked gas than non-fracked gas? And I'm not getting a sense that there
Why there are chemicals is because that's how they actually break that shale up to extract the gas.
right.
So they're putting in those chemicals.
They're putting them in, but how many of those chemicals actually bond to the natural gas, and then they're, when they do the dehydration, when they heat the gas, they get it to steam, to shoot up 99% moisture in the stack. What's in that 1%? What's the difference of the 1% mix for frack gas versus non-frack? And
I know, and they hold that all very close. They publish reports of what is and what isn't, but it's all estimates, and
yeah.
They won't even release what kind of chemicals they use to break it up because it's proprietary, so you wouldn't even know all the chemicals that are used in it because it's carrier.
Well, hopefully this 13 counties, pretty soon we'll have 14 counties with the ban of fracking materials. And then eventually, New York State has banned, so you can't frack it, you can't actually mine for it with, pipes in the ground and, do the fracking exercise in New York State. But hopefully New York State will extend their ban of fracking so that none of those byproducts can come in. We don't need every county to do a ban. Maybe New York State can,
There are movements in the works right now.
I don't.
In Albany that are stopping the pipeline altogether. Since the energy crisis is over, there's a hope that eventually, the pipeline expansion will stop. Because right now we have none. There's a surplus. We don't need it. That's why they're shipping it to Canada. So, hopefully our level, the federal level, state level, hopefully we can all kind of.
I know the newspapers with the price of gasoline, they're saying that OPEC's trying to put fracking out of business.
Okay, Brian?
My name is Mike Alinello. There's just a couple quick things. One, I've been in touch with Larry. I live within that half-mile radius and have yet to receive the letter from National Fuel. I know Larry's been in touch with them,
I
checking
checked
on.
with because they were going to notify the Tribune and the Gazette as far as I know, editors and see, but we've not been notified that the newspapers have even been notified of this announcement that they're going to be printing in their papers.
So that kind of makes me wonder, are they trying to keep it hush-hush so that there isn't as many people at this forum next week? That's my question. That's why when she suggested that everybody unite as one, including you guys, that would be really something that would show that we can fight this. And the second thing is, after the last meeting we were talking, and it was said that you guys have to look out for the landowners of the town, meaning National Fuel is going to be a landowner of the town. What happens if this goes through and the other landowners that are in that radius start abandoning their houses? You're going to lose those tax incomes just to satisfy what National Fuel is giving us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Jerry?
How you doing, guys? Happy New Year, and hope you guys had a good one. Hope you have a good year. Question is, Aldi's. I would like that berm that's in front of my house to continue to be there, and the other issue is the safety issue. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, another accident right there on the boulevard. Car went in the ditch. Spent hours and hours getting the car out of the ditch. People went to the emergency room. That's not a good section. That light is basically just adequate enough for Crescent Drive. And now you want that Aldi's is going to just acerate and just make it even worse than what it is. So I'm just bringing it up. I'll keep on bringing it up until there is a resolution to this and the planning board has any discussion on it. I'd appreciate it, but if you guys have any input, I would appreciate that also.
Yeah, this is going to be before the planning board this coming Wednesday. It's, I think, the second item on the agenda, if I recall.
So, this
So
Wednesday?
This
Okay.
coming Wednesday, yeah. Planning board starts at about 7 o'clock, and I think it's the second item on the agenda.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Good evening and
Evening.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I just have two comments tonight. One is concerning toxic waste in general, okay? When Love Canal occurred years and years ago, the science at the time said in 50 years we will have the technology to render this stuff harmless to the environment. Well, 50 years has come and gone, and Love Canal has been cleaned up, but as far as the waste itself, science has not come up with a solution. For 15 years, I worked actively on the cleanup at the Tonawanda sites with the leftover radioactive waste from the Manhattan Project. And at the time of that project, which occurred in the 50s, the people that were dealing with radioactive uranium and, the building of the bomb itself really did not, from a scientific standpoint, really did not understand the consequences down the road. So what happened was the tailings and a lot of the toxics from the generation of materials to build the bomb were just basically put in landfills and dumped wherever they could. And I think it's a good lesson for today because, the town has before it now a number of issues regarding toxics. What you're going to see happen, I think, is what happened with the radioactive waste cleanup in the Tonawondas from all the various groups that were supportive. They're going to say, there's no problem with this and there's no problem with that. And they're going to make a pretty good case for doing what they want to do. But if past history has any relevance here, I think that the town has to be extremely aware that no matter what these people say and what the science is saying now, the question for all of these things that may occur in the town is, what are the consequences in the future? And they have to be asked that, because if you ask that, they just kind of sit there with a dumb look on their face because they can't really say. And if they know what the consequences are going to be, they basically are not going to tell you because, it's going to hurt their project from being approved. So I think it's important that the town, especially in today's world, be very much aware that they need to ask questions and they need to not just take at face value what these people are telling you. The second thing that I wanted to comment on was...
Before you go too much farther, you're well past your 3 minutes. We have a 3-minute limit, so can you please move it along fast?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Was on the library. I personally know a number of people who are against building a library. Strictly from a cost standpoint, right now you have North Tonawanda Library and Sanborn. And the second thing is, why in Erie, if you can go to Erie County and get one library card and go to any of the libraries in Erie County, why isn't that possible here in Niagara County? Thank you.
It pretty much is, If you're a member of a NIOGA, it pretty much is, but there is a funny stipulation in the law that is, if you're a town of the first class, which Wheatfield is, meaning over 10,000 residents, you're required to provide library services for the residents. You can do that by providing your own library service, by having a separate library within your town, or by paying another town for the library services. They cannot stop you from going into the library. If we just stop tomorrow, we're not going to pay anything, okay? And I do say if. Please understand. This is a scenario. North Tonawanda could say our residents can no longer take a book out of North Tonawanda, and they can also say we can't participate in any of the ancillary things that they do over there. They do some great things with kids over there. They have a lot of programs that are very good for kids. And our residents would not be able to have our kids in those programs. They cannot stop you from going into the library, using the equipment, and reading a book in the library. if that makes any sense. Yes, Laurie?
I already had discussions with the staff of the library, and the former director, current director, and the assistant director. If we build a library in Wheatfield, none of us will have access to the North Tonawanda or the Sanborn Library. You will be able to go in the building and walk around, and that's it. You will not be able to use computers, you cannot loan out books, you can't go to any of the functions they have there, you can't use any of their
From what I've been told by the head of Niagara, if they're a member of Niagara and we're a member of Niagara, that's not the case. But
this is what I've been told by two directors and the assistant director, and I don't think they would give me false information.
No.
We cannot even pay a fee per year like you can in Erie. In Erie County, I can go pay $50 a year and use any library in Erie County. You can't even pay a fee to use this library as an individual because it's not set up that way in the region system.
Right.
So if we build a library here, we lose everything with Sanborn and North Tonawanda.
that's not what we've been told, but this whole issue of library is just out there now, and the survey is just hitting the street right now. I think it's available online, and Kathy has copies of it. If anybody wishes to fill it out, we want to hear what everybody has to say, as many residents as possible.
I don't think they would have given me false information.
Well, that's my understanding. Brian? Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak on any subject? John?
What justified that dehydration plant in populated area? What reason did they do it justify? What studies did they do? What risk management studies did they do?
I doubt they did any risk management study unless they have some way of doing that internally. They do not consider that a populated area because they claim to be 2,600 feet from the nearest residence.
You ever hear of the accident in Wheatfield, India?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
When Lindy Chemical made a mistake and put water in that gas line, how blew that town up?
Well, that was a chlorine blow, right?
That's right. Blew everything up. The same thing could happen to the dehydrator. They make a mistake, if that line gets full of water, it'll blow that whole area up there. But you can't say it's not in a populated area. Now, where they're getting their knowledge from, I'll tell you what control natural gas is. They sound like quasar energy. Everybody that questions what they're gonna do is on the YouTube or on the internet. Well, I'd like to know why they're on the internet when they put their propaganda. When you go to FastFact and all that stuff. These people got the right idea. That plant does not belong to that is a populated area. As far as goes the proximity, if that plant blew, it would take the whole area out.
Well, I do hope that...
Solar engineers, you better go back to chemical engineering and take up another course on how these chemicals solidify.
I would encourage you to go online and put your comments online, because that's what we need.
John, you want me to sign you up for the next meeting?
What meeting is that?
It's coming up.
13th.
I don't think personally I have to go on online. There's enough people right here, and if you want to really beat National Fuel, out there I suggest you. Everyone is by one share of National Fuel gas stock. And go to the board of directors meeting, you'll shut them down like we did with Exxon. When Exxon wanted to pull the same thing, every stockholder voted against it, and they didn't go through with it. And I'm a stockholder in Exxon. That's what we did. You want by one share. It's only allowed these $42 a share. 60 cents a day, and you'll beat them. Money talks. Bullshit walks.
Okay. Thank you, John. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say a statement regarding, the Weaver subdivision. I'm off down with my mother here. You know, with the Manhattan project, these were things that were done before the EPA, before Don Fall, started with Jimmy Carter, with the DEC and the EPA. Now that we have those things, it is negligible to keep thinking that is safe.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Yes, keep on bringing up these numbers from National Fuel on the distance to the nearest home. Have we gotten our own numbers yet?
I don't think so, unless somebody did it on their own. I haven't asked for it. I suppose, Tim, you could probably do that on GIS. You could figure out whether, I believe the number they gave us was 2,650 feet to the nearest building, if I remember right.
I think that we should have our own numbers regarding the plot of land to the nearest home, and we shouldn't be using any numbers that they have.
Okay. Tim, can you take care of that?
Yeah, we have, Mike has, you've given us a map, we have a map of where they say the facility's going, and it's just on paper. We don't have latitude and longitude coordinates, but we're probably within 10 or 20 feet of where this thing is. And, 10 or 20 feet.
Less than 2,600 feet from my house.
Yeah.
Like, when we spoke on the phone there, you said we could possibly go from the nearest point of their property line to the nearest point of the first resident's property. Why?
That's what I'm trying to
Start
find.
in the middle, get the closest as we can.
I'm trying to find out from them now whether this half a mile is from the smokestack, or is it from their property line, or is it from the, you know, and I don't have that answer yet.
They have 40 acres of land there, they're only gonna use 2. That 40 acres extends a lot further into the residential area than that 2 acres where they show in that plot that I gave you.
And what they did was, I think they conveniently placed this thing, where it would be, you know, further away from, you know, maybe only by a couple hundred feet, but, further away from, that half mile limit.
So to be clear, someone's going to go and measure?
You can measure on GIS, geographic information system. I just, anybody has a copy of that map that I can look at and see if I can look at X on this spot.
Would you be able to publish that somewhere so that people can know when you get that information, you can put it on the website?
I can get it to the supervisor.
Yeah.
I'll email, I have a copy of the National Fuel map, and, I can email that to you, Kev.
Yeah, I don't believe they may have picked the spot, but I don't believe we've received anything that shows exactly where the unit's going to go on that 40 acres.
This is on their proposal from last year in March. This is where I got this map from.
Jerry? Well, there are residents before you get to the trailer park too, but this is, yeah, that's their number, and we'll find out.
We're not just talking about our development,
Right. Right.
Yeah, you're gonna be, Hurd Street, York, Hurd and York, mainly, Hurd Street is gonna be kinda close to River Road, and then, Lancelot. But, you know, Sunset Drive, we just missed it. I think if you go down where the trailer park is, you're probably 3/4 of a mile or more.
Would you be concerned about that, trail that's supposed to go through there too? You know, is the map running right through there?
Somewhat. It's in the same vicinity.
Well, we're talking about River Road, because it's on the north side, the trail's on the north side, so it has to fall within that.
Right.
Part of the trail would be close to a half a mile. You're correct.
John?
I got a suggestion. Why doesn't the town create an environmental committee where people can sit on it? They would have to go before the town, but they don't know before the fact that's going on, not after the fact. They would know in advance, just like the planning board and all that stuff. I think the town could have an environmental committee. That way these people can sit on it, and they can decide their own future. They can be involved. They're finding this different, in fact, here, and months later, they're never notified and stuff like that, they're just gonna do like anything else.
Well, we'd like to have help. Actually, one of the things that we've talked about is actually getting an energy committee back together. There was an energy committee at one time, and it fell apart. There weren't any projects going on. One of the things the town could do is use town property to put up a solar farm, for example. A 10-acre solar farm would probably do a lot of good to the town in terms of finances. If somebody is interested in forming a committee like that, we need somebody to lead it, and then would go under the task force. Richard Muscatello runs the task force, so we'd have to get him involved in the process. But it starts with coming up with a leader and hopefully some volunteers. If nothing else, then we'll go ahead and move on. Art Gerbeck is not able to be here this evening due to a health condition. Did we get a set of minutes? I don't happen to have my copy with me. What was the minutes, Kath?
21st.
So the December 21st meeting, we had a set of minutes. Does anybody want to move those in for approval?
So, we don't have, were they prepared?
They were emailed. I got them emailed.
I don't know, Nancy did them, so I don't know if
I
she,
didn't get the correct copy.
oh, I got one, she must not have given them. to
Any
me.
reason not to hold off till the next meeting?
No, I mean, they're, you can hold to the next meeting, it doesn't matter, just hold them.
Okay, do we wish to hold? All right, vouchers, it's a good-sized bill pay. The total amount of money is $711,804.89. Voucher numbers, 2015, 2573 through 2015, 2649. Ed, that can't quite be right? Don't we have a couple from 2016?
But they are, the voucher numbers are correct.
Everything is in this.
Okay. So does somebody will somebody put in a motion for me to pay those bills?
So moved. I'll second.
Moved by Gil, second by Randy. Anything on the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Departments, highway, is Paul here? Yes, Paul's here.
Not much meat tonight, winter's finally here, so we're excited about that.
I saw you picked up my Christmas tree today. That was nice. Are they being shredded, or what's happening with Christmas trees?
Some are being picked up by us, some the garbage men are taking. A lot of times leave ornaments on it, leave the tree stands on it, leave them in a paper bag, or leave them in a plastic bag. So, I mean, for the most part, the garbage men have been picking up quite a few of them. I had a guy
Maybe
out
that was
there
it.
grab this stuff. Just a reminder, everybody, no parking through 6 a.m. That we had a nice beginning of the winter, so it didn't really matter, but now our trucks are out. You might notice the road's a little slippery, 11 degrees outside, you might treat it so, doesn't work very well when it gets like this, so please use caution. I don't have really much more than that. I do want to get a drainage committee meeting together, but it probably will not be until February.
Okay, we'd like to have Dave Britton there for that meeting, and
I was talking to him tonight.
maybe invite the entire board so we can go over what's going on with the drainage study.
Yep. I believe you have a copy in your office, right?
Yes, I do.
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Anything for Paul? Rich, water and sewer?
I know everybody's heard me mention about the wipes and the different rags and the grease getting into sewers and causing trouble. Last Tuesday, we had it happen up on Shawnee Road, the Mapleton Road area, Hidden Ridge, Stone Ridge, all the way up to the hill from there down to Mapleton Road on Shawnee, plugged up solid. When they broke it loose, it was a matter of what they saw come by with wipes, grease, tennis balls. There was a mixture of stuff that was in the sewer that plugged it up. What happens is the wipes will bind to the grease and whatever else is in there, and it plugged up quite a bit. They were out there Tuesday night jetting, cleared it out, went back Wednesday morning, did some more jetting, cleaned it up some more, but it's definitely going to be more of a problem in the future.
Is it baby wipes that you're talking about?
And baby wipes, moist sanitary wipes, they say they're flushable. They're flushable, all right, but we're gonna run into problems down the road with them because we're plugging up our sewers. And it's not just this town that's having problems, it's everywhere. We'll definitely be getting it out. We're gonna be sending out a letter town-wide to that effect also. There'll be a letter going out in the next couple of months on the new water bills that we're gonna be putting out, so we're gonna be including a letter in with that to the effect of, stuff not to put in the sewer. So, we're only gonna be helping ourselves, plug them up. Could be your house, the one that's getting plugged up and getting backed up, so we hate to have it happen to anybody, but we can only be there so many times to try cleaning them out once every other year, every sewer. And most of the time when we get to cleaning them out, it's when there's a plug up. That's all I got.
We can send a letter for that, but we can't for the dehydration.
Well, it goes out with the bills.
Once again, with Paulie on the snow issues, you can keep the hydrant shovels out once we do start getting some snow. Make sure if you got a plow guy, tell him not to plow the snow up against hydrants. We appreciate it. Helps make our life easier, and helps make the firefighters' life easier also.
Okay. Anything else for Rich? Thanks, Rich. Mike, Recreation? Must be something. Okay. When's the next dance? That's gotta be coming up soon.
23rd.
And
January.
are you still looking for volunteers for the Winterfest? So there's a meeting tomorrow night. If anybody wants to volunteer to be part of the Winterfest at the end of the month, now's a real good time to get involved. Still looking for ideas, still looking for volunteers. Thank you, Mike. Other Mike, Building Inspector. Anybody? Bridget? Not time for your 20-minute speech yet? Larry, it's a little loud again.
Earlier, I was told it's not loud enough.
Well, Arlene? Okay. Can't wait. And Tim didn't have anything in the in a packet for us this evening. Anything? Okay. Kathy?
I'm sure everybody received their mail and found their tax bills for those that get the tax bills in the mail. So tax bills are out. They can be paid here at Town Hall in the clerk's office, or you can mail them in. M&T Bank is not taking payments. I shouldn't say that. M&T over on Military Road will take them, but they're not listed as a place to make your payment. So they will take them, but it's either mail or in person in the clerk's office. You can pay with cash, check, or credit card. When you pay with a credit card, there is a 2.5% convenience fee because other taxpayers can't pay if somebody wants to use their credit card. And any questions, call our office.
Okay. Thank you, Kath. We don't have many motions, but Matt, you're on.
On the original agenda, we had, this is be the first motion from the Budget Director. Be it resolved, the Town Board does hereby approve and authorize the Supervisor to sign the proposal letter dated November 17, 2015, from Drescher and Malecki LLP for audit services for the years of 2015, 2016, and 2017 at a fee of $17,300, $17,613, and $17,927 respectively, with an option for 2 additional years of 2018 and 2019 at a fee of $18,252 and $18,578 respectively.
Okay, I'd like to make this motion, but I'd like to modify the motion myself. I would agree with the 2016 and 2015, in other words, doing 2 years with this audit. I'm a little reluctant to commit a board from 3 years away to doing an audit. It's a very intimate program. What I would suggest that we do is we approve it tonight at 2015 and 2016 with 3 years of option. Not commit to that 3rd year. So that's my motion. Does anybody wish to second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Anything further on the question? Before we do that, Ed, do you see any problem in doing that?
No, I do not. I will have Drescher and Malecki submit a new proposal with the change.
You know, it's basically the same dollars, but I'm not committing a board 4 years and 5 years away to this. Okay. Anything else?
Should we have them include optional, that number, so that we're locking in on a price even though we won't agree to it?
Well, the numbers are on the paper, right?
Yeah,
The 3,
we don't-
it's just not guaranteeing the 3rd year at this point.
Okay.
You're just saying the 3rd year is an option. That's all.
Make the 3rd year an option at the number noted.
Understood.
We did a couple of years ago, and we chose to keep Drescher Malecki. We had, I think, 3 firms that we interviewed. We chose to keep them. Yeah, this has not been put out to bid.
We actually went out for bid last year.
Was it last year? Okay.
2014, went out for bid.
Which would have been done in 2013, so it's 2 years ago, yeah. Okay, anything else on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Now, of course, if they don't accept it, Ed, then we have to go back to the drawing board.
All right, next I have those supplemental motions. First one was the Town of Wheatfield fracking waste moratorium that we discussed, and I believe was handed out earlier today. And that would be a motion for a 6-month moratorium in relation to the sale, application, disposal of waste associated with oil and natural gas exploration, extraction, storage activities in the Town of Wheatfield, and of course with regard to spreading in the town. And as proposed, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but as specified.
I think it's about ready to be mailed right now. It's actually already at the printer right now, but... yeah. Mike?
If I stuck one page in it, I could actually stick 2 pages. Then stick 2 pages. There you said the print.
Just like a piece of paper like that. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Not something printed up by the printer. It's just typed up. Or have it printed up by the printer. This is important.
I'm not sure how that's related to recreation.
Is there a playground in that area down there? 2. That's what I thought. There are 2 within a mile. So maybe parents would like to know about it.
Actually, there's 3.
Hey, we found some good stuff, but there's no way of getting there. And then there's also dangerous things going on around it. People need to know.
I just do recreation.
I know.
But in village, like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Library recreation, Mike?
That was there by
The
I would think it would.
Yeah.
Well, we always hear that there's no way of getting up and over because the town doesn't want to pay for this. And we ask those other ways of getting notification out to the people. And if the recreational department sends out something yearly, I think we want something sent out through that because that's the only way we get it. Because you already said the water bill is different because it doesn't have something like an envelope to put something in there.
Well, when they put out a letter, they do.
So I think this is a real good question, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Is it too, I guess one question is it really too late since the meeting is only a week away? By the time that gets out? No, I don't think that stops them, unless they're getting into a fracking situation that we can stop, which is not likely.
I don't know where I would stop. Would I just talk about that? Would I talk about sidewalks on Kruger? Would I talk about... How would I...
It just be listed in your booklet. It's just letting people know what's going on in Wheatfield. And if it's near Green Playground, I would want to know for my child. I wouldn't let my kid play back there if I know there was an issue.
I can't think where the 3rd is.
That girl from the love canal, she didn't know what was going on either.
Hey, Mike, when they print your booklet, when they mail it out, do they put a gummy tape on the edge of it so that it doesn't fan open when they get... So if we were to do an insert, we'd also probably have to have them... Well, it's already stapled together as a book, but... Well, that's what I'm getting to. They don't put a sticker on it now, so we'd have to insert and then put a
that tomorrow for postage and delivering it to the post office, it may already be at the post office.
Yes,
I'm not sure how long
You can reappropriate spend, like, I'm not trying to think that.
Well, we've got a,
don't know what I'm going to ask.
we got a couple issues logistically how to make it happen in a short period of time, and what you're saying you'd like to see about a moratorium. Moratorium is not something that the individual citizens are going to be, what we expect, violating it. This is to prevent the industrial type use or spreading in the town. Well, you can send it out, you can,
And I see the Metro newsletters blowing around in the wind, they don't even make it to the mailboxes, so if that's their only notification, they don't know.
well, I don't know if logistically it's possible. That was something that have to be looked into if there was some sort of insert, but inserting the moratorium, I don't think that's getting the message out that, I'm not sure what message you're looking with regard to the fact that this dehydrator is being proposed by National Fuel and being permitted by FERC. Yeah, but what what do you want? I mean, if we put every single issue, I mean, what are you looking for to go in it?
Okay. All of that is out there. Everybody here, that's why a lot of these folks are here, is because the information is out there. But if you go simply online, all of that's pretty direct on the system. Right? You go on the very first Google, just
Well, thank you for saying I'm young. I appreciate that. And yes, I have children here, but I mean, when you're talking about what is going into those emissions, this is not, as you're characterizing, some sort of plan. This is regulated by the federal government. Well, I suppose logistically it may, and I guess I'm speaking for the board right now, it may be difficult to logistically do it at this point in the juncture. Some sort of newsletter regarding other issues, that I suppose that's a possibility the board would have to consider. I don't think there's no resolution. No one knows exactly what would go in it at this point. You say there's a list of these things, but you're not just going to mail out in a mailing, 3 or 4 bullet points. There has to be some sort of detailed.
the most effective way for us to get information out is to post. That's one of the reasons we rebuilt our website. We spent a lot of money on a website so that people can use it. Okay. If people would get used to going onto the website, they'd be able to find that out. If you want to see what's going on in town, it's right on the very first page. Just Google the town of Wheatfield, it's going to come right up. And then you see projects on the left-hand side, and that's where you can see all the different things that are current, with the most important at the top. That wasn't... that. If there's a group out there that wants to do that, that's fine. If the the Wheatfield Action Group wants to put that out, that's fine. That's the Wheatfield Action Group putting that out. All right? The town's job is to try to protect your, the town's job is to try and protect your interests. And that's what we're trying to protect you from. That's where I'm putting my energies. Anybody who doesn't know about it isn't looking. It's been in virtually every paper several times, and it's out on the website constantly, and it's updated every time I get something new. The other guys can put us stuff up on the website as well if they want. So information's up there. We have the meeting. We have already announced, but we'll announce again that the meeting's next week. This is the flyer that's going out that I did run copies for, that the Wheatfield Action Team can have. They intend to put it out. If they need more, I'll get them whatever they need. But 6 years ago, when I first came into office, we made a decision to not be mailing out the 2 or 3 or 4 times a year that the board had been doing prior to that. It's just too much money. I think it's very important, which is why I react to it every day, every time something comes up. Well, if you notice, the Recreation Department deals through the internet. Almost every week they're putting something out that's a new program, and that's how they find out. If people want to sign up with the town, you can get sent a notification.
How much do they spend on mailing out the Wheatfield Family Picnic brochure?
Nothing.
That's a private group.
Who pays for that?
The Wheatfield Picnic Committee.
One thing though, I want to add, when the original location was over in Indicon, you guys all got notified by National Fuel. When it got moved over to Liberty Drive, nobody pushed National Fuel to notify anybody over by Liberty Drive until after the last board meeting when Larry wrote to them and asked them to do so. At that point, the town board should have taken it upon themselves to notify the people over by the new location. Because they knew it was going over there, but nobody did anything. They just kind of said, well, we'll push it over here and let it go.
Well, behind the scenes, I have emails that I sent them to notify us, but they didn't act on them until, you know,
That's where the board should have stepped in and done something.
well,
Because we didn't find out until, you know, yes, you had it on the website, but unless you know something's going on in your backyard, you're not gonna be on the internet doing it. So somebody put a copy of a flyer that somebody put out on Facebook, that's how a lot of us knew about it. That's the only way. It didn't come to our house or anything.
but the only reason they're mailing now isn't because of the 5 board members. It's because of the residents and our Wheatfield Action Committee. 5 of us, you know, knocking on National Fuel Gas's door did nothing. Now that we've got a whole bunch of you out there making noise, that's why this thing's...
There's a big time frame difference from when it was moved from Indicon to Liberty that we didn't get notified. There's months there that it was moved over there and nobody made us aware. Where you guys knocked on National Fuel, they weren't responding, then you guys should have stepped up and sent something out to at least a half-mile radius, if not the mile radius. I'm done.
Right.
That's it.
You know what National Fuel is doing?
they're playing a nice guy now because they've been exposed. They're using fast facts, try to discredit these people who go on the internet. Say that they're looking at YouTube too much, they're looking at the internet too much, and they don't know what to talk.
We're actually not even in the comment period at this point, so I'm gonna move on. We're actually back in the motion on fracking. I don't think we finished that yet. Excuse me, the moratorium on fracking.
Yeah, I just completed reading at least and saying reading the initial introductory paragraph and indicating the motion as presented in the notes or in the printout with regard to a potential.
Excuse me, could you speak toward the microphone a little bit so we can all hear what's going on? Thank you.
So it's before the board, if the board would like to consider a resolution for a moratorium in the town of Wheatfield.
Now, a moratorium does not require a public hearing where a change in law would?
That's correct. It's a more initial and it's a temporary hold. Of course, it could always be challenged by law, but at this point it's a temporary policy of the town to prevent that. It does not require a public hearing, publication at this point, or anything of that nature as a local law would.
I got a question. So this would prevent the Niagara County Sewer District from accepting fracking waste. It probably would stop the town of Wheatfield Highway Superintendent from spreading fracking waste as a de-icer. Would it stop Niagara County Highway and New York State Highway from spreading it as de-icer on county and state roads? Or would our ban stop them, or no? Or our moratorium stop them?
Well, I would suggest we would send them a copy, a notice of the moratorium. However, this does not establish penalties with regard to them. At this point, it's our information, they're not using that, but we would require notice, and we would attempt to stop if anyone tries to in the meantime. But this moratorium does not include penalties because it's not a local law. There are no penalties, there's no sanction in court where we can take them to court over it, at least in the town court. There's issues with regard to lawsuits and things down the road, but it's not a town court violation.
I like the fact that this is a working document, and over 6 months, if we have to tweak it, a couple of times, that the Wheatfield Action Committee can work with the town board and give us ideas, and there's a lot of good ideas out there, and we can make those changes as we go, so I'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by Larry.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Randy.
I got a question, Paul. We don't spread anything of this waste at this time, right?
What we feed our solid right now is byproducts of beer, organic. I don't have all the technical terms for it with me. I haven't actually shop it yet.
Okay.
We don't extract the food right now.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anything further on the question? All in favor of this moratorium, 6-month moratorium, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The moratorium is approved. Matt, you had one more?
Yes, there's also an additional resolution recommending, I'll read the initial paragraph, well, I'll read it, it's shorter. A motion to request Niagara County Legislature review the issue of storage, disposal, and or treatment of natural gas and oil wastes and fracturing fluids or solids in the County of Niagara, and thereafter to adopt a local law providing for the banning of hydraulic fracturing on land within Niagara County and prohibiting the storage, disposal, or treatment of natural gas and oil waste and fracturing fluids or solids by any wastewater treatment facility operating in Niagara County, and prohibiting the purchase or acquisition of such materials by Niagara County, and prohibiting the application of any of these products to construct or maintain any road owned or maintained or located in Niagara County. Upon information and belief, natural gas and oil waste products produced by fracking contain toxic substances and many chemicals that have been linked to health problems associated with respiratory systems or other organs when applied to roadways. Additionally, said fracking waste has a potential to pollute surface and groundwater. The Wheatfield Town Board understands that some chemicals found in fracking waste are not treated by wastewater treatment facilities, and the introduction of fracking waste into such facilities may result in a release into the environment and pose a health risk to Niagara County residents. It is in the best interest of the residents of the town of Wheatfield and the county of Niagara to protect the health and safety of the town and county residents and local drinking water by prohibiting fracking in Niagara County and prohibiting the use of natural gas and oil waste on roadways owned, maintained, and located in Niagara County, and prohibiting the introduction of natural gas and oil waste into wastewater treatment plants operated or located in Niagara County. So this would be a resolution to recommend the county to analyze and hopefully pass legislation prohibiting such use in Niagara County.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Moved by Larry, second by Gil. Anything on the question?
As I mentioned earlier, there was 12 counties as of a couple weeks ago. I think there's 13 now, and I think there's a movement out there to get additional counties, and then eventually get the state to, ban it all together instead of having each individual county act on it.
Okay. One thing we might want to do, Matt, is make sure we get copies off to our 3 legislature as well as to the new chairman-to-be. I don't know if there's a chairman yet.
Yeah, there is. Keith
Is he
McDowell's
selected?
been designated. I don't know if he's been appointed officially yet.
I believe he was sworn in a few days ago.
And then one other thing, the Pendleton Action Team is also going to be getting the town board in Pendleton to basically do the same motion that we're doing. So we'll have the town of Pendleton and the town of Wheatfield both addressing the Niagara County Legislature.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is also approved.
That is all I have for motions tonight.
Okay, we'll move to board member items. Councilman Helwig?
Just a reminder, if you haven't already, the National Fuel Gas Pipeline Information Meeting that they're holding here at the Community Center is on January 13th. If you're going to go to that, you have to, they want RSVPs, you have to tell them you're coming. So if you haven't done that already, I think it's on our town website, the address and contact information to do that. You can phone them. I think Councilman Doucette tried phoning them because he didn't know how to email, but did you ever get through, Gil?
Yes.
Okay. And so, there's a limit, and I forget what it was, Mike, 300?
300 total.
And then there's another meeting, but it's only town board officials and maybe Mike that lives on Lancelot, maybe people within a half a mile are going to be invited to the Junction Road, Cambria dehydration facility. So I've signed up for it. I don't know who else has, but when you get your letter, Mike, let me know in the next week or so if you don't get that. My guess is when the Tribune comes out Thursday, Friday, you're going to see a splash in that paper. And maybe sometime this week the Gazette's going to have something in there. And my guess is they're going to be doing this mailing this week to within that half-mile radius.
I got my gas bill and there wasn't anything.
Maybe we should not pay our gas bills. Just kidding.
That's this Saturday, right, Larry?
Yes, it's this Saturday at 11:30.
11:30, yeah.
But they are asking to know who's coming. So.
Yeah, you have to. I think you have to send them an email to tell them you're coming. You just can't show up at the doorstep. So they wanted a response back. So as town officials, we can't even just show up at 11:30. We had to tell them our name and that we were going to come. What? It's an actual dehydration facility where they take the moisture out of the gas. They want to show us how one works. But when we show them videos of these YouTubes of where they've had disasters, they tell us our facility isn't like that one.
Is it the same gas?
I don't know. I mean, we've got to ask those questions.
Same type of facility that like all?
Up until about a week or two ago, they wouldn't tell us where any of these compressor stations or dehydration stations were because Pendleton and everyone, we were trying to find out where the closest one is. We'll do a little field trip and they didn't want to release any of that information.
Yeah, I actually...
I'm a little more than a half a mile on Sunset. I think 3rd Street will probably have a couple of houses that are close.
That's for this Saturday, you said?
This Saturday.
Yeah, well...
Short notice.
It's going to be really short notice because you haven't received the letter yet.
Okay.
Has anybody asked them
I've asked them for a list of people that they're notifying, and I've not gotten that either, so.
Has anybody asked them why they can't do this in Canada?
Yes, I actually did ask that question and got that answered. That's on the website. They claim that their tariff requires the gasoline at the border to be 4 pounds per million cubic feet or less to go into Canada. And the border is in the middle of the river. So they have a choice. They could build on Grand Island. They could build, Wheatfield is the next one after that. I don't know if Grand Island has a good spot or not. I just wouldn't know. But they happen to choose Wheatfield. The pipe goes through here. Just for everybody's, this is a notice. There is a version of this up on our website, and this is what the information you need to be able to sign up for the meeting next week. We do have a room that has a capacity, I believe, Mike, it's 150 on the capacity sign. I know we've had over 200 of it on each side, so it's 300 total. Well, that must be where they came up with the 300 then. Okay, so it probably will sell out. John?
Once somebody asks National Fuel, why don't they use a crop system and design instead of a tag?
The what?
A tag system. Instead of using glycol, tag means it's glycol.
Right. Okay.
Where a crop system does not use any compressor or anything like that, it doesn't use glycol. It just cleans the system and puts it back in, recycles and puts it back into the system. I'll tell you why. It's too expensive. They want to make more money on it.
Yeah, that would be new to me. But if you have an idea, if you can point me in the direction, I can ask.
Bring it up at that meeting at 13.
I'll be happy to ask the questions. Okay, Joe.
Do we RSVP without providing National Fuel our email address?
You can call them. I think they have a phone number, and you can leave a message. And I think they have a phone number that you can call, or you can email them. If you want to set up a new email on something.
There's a number for Karen Merkel, yeah.
Yeah, she won't talk to you.
Yeah, probably not.
So we can't RSVP by phone, or we can?
It doesn't say you can. They do send you back a notice saying your name's on the list. When you send in your name, they send you back a notice saying you're on the list. At least they did for me.
Joe, if you want, I can tell them you're coming, and they'll use my email if that'll get you off the hook.
This is right.
I tried to go to Pendleton, got no reply, and it keeps saying it will not accept I have Frontier. It won't accept it. I tried for this one, it won't accept it.
Trying to register for it?
Yeah.
You're trying to go to the January 13th meeting, and
yeah, apparently it's kicking it up.
I tried for the Pendleton meeting, but then somebody said, well, just show up, so Wally went and just showed up.
Larry's an expert when it comes to computers, so he'd be a good person to give your name and address to, and he can get it.
do you have a reply? Did it send you an email reply back or nothing?
It doesn't recognize for internet for service provider. Well, it recognizes like Verizon and Gmail and all that. Right, I went through them, Frontier,
Oh.
Is it that, or is it a quick case of XP versus Windows 7?
No. No.
Okay. Hugh, you had something?
Yeah, where is this, dehydration station that you're gonna be looking at this Saturday now?
It's on Junction Road in town of Cambria. It's probably, you know where the new Yahoo facility is?
But what's in that?
It's in that area. I have not been there. I have the address, so specifically where it's at, I don't know, but it's on Junction Road.
Across the street, it's on the south side, or on the west side.
5186 Junction Road. So if anybody wants to see it, 5186.
Now, does that one even tie into that, pipeline we're talking about here?
They're all tied together in some way or another, but it's the simple answer is no. They all spread out from.
So it's not, you know, because I believe the feeder that comes into our area comes from, like, say along the 90 into this area. And that one comes in from Pennsylvania, and that's part of the project of it, an extension, they want to bring in from Pennsylvania, bring the
Okay.
across, from the west, across this way. Oh, yeah, I downloaded the map, I got kind of a
Okay.
idea of what it is right here.
Supervisor
Let's
Cliff, I
continue
think
on.
my 3 minutes is almost up.
Anything
But
else?
I had one more thing. I know several years ago, and getting back to what all the comments we had here earlier, because of budget constraints and everything, we did take the supervisor's newsletter out of the budget. I don't remember the exact amount of money. It was probably over $10,000-$15,000 that we used to spend, sending out newsletters 3 or 4 times a year and Christmas cards and everything else. But knowing that we have a recreational booklet going out early in the year, and I don't know when Water Department sends theirs out, maybe, you know, if we could look at what some of the other departments within the town are doing, maybe you could plan a supervisor's newsletter to go out with, and, you know, have it stuffed inside Mike's thing if you wanted to, because in the inside cover, there is a, you know, a thank you and a welcome from the supervisor and the liaisons. Maybe you could add a newsletter in there. I think it's too late for this year though, guys. But, in future years, and I don't know when Water sends out their bills in an envelope versus a postcard, but if we could, and I don't know if there's any other mailings, can't do it with tax bills probably, but if there's other opportunities to get something out there and piggyback on somebody else's postage, let's do it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Gil?
Nothing.
Randy?
Nothing.
I was going to make the announcement about the other thing. I did, at the last meeting, we talked very briefly about the Niagara Sanitation landfill and the reclassification from a Class 3 to a Class 2. And that had to do with the landfill prior to getting involved in 2013, about 3 years ago. The landfill was classified a Class 3, which means no hazard to the public. After taking out 80 truckloads of Love Canal material, it's now reclassified as a Class 2, which means there is potential hazard to the public. Had me pretty nervous at the last meeting because I hadn't had a chance to talk to anybody. I did talk to Matt Fercucci. Matt Fercucci is the area representative for the New York State Department of Health, and had a good chat with him, and he talked about this is a procedure whereby the DEC will be able to use their powers to continue the remediation process, and if necessary, use Superfund monies to do that remediation. They do not know whether it's going to include removing more material, moving material and capping it, simply putting a different cap on it, or maybe nothing more than putting a fence around it. Their primary concern is these materials were in the ground and they were buried with the typical Wheatfield clay cap on top, but it wasn't a very thick one. It's now got roughly 50 years of tree growth on top of it. It's all natural growth on top. Their testing showed that nothing had migrated off the site, but we know that there are still materials in there which are potential hazardous to people. So when an ATV operator goes in or a motorbike operator goes in and starts digging down through the cap, starts digging down through the clay top, they could feasibly get into some material that they probably shouldn't be. It could be a benzene, it could be PCBs, I know is one of the ones that they found. There's lead in there, there's mercury in there. All the typical things that were thrown into a landfill 50 years ago. That was the nature of the day, just like chemicals were thrown in the ground in Niagara Falls. The Love Canal material which was put there later. It was put there at the very end of the use of the landfill, 1968, and it is all now gone. Someone talked about we don't have the capability of making this stuff go away. Well, they did. They carted it away all the way to Utah. I think some of it went to Texas. They burn it, and then they landfill what's left after it's burned. But the waste, the toxins are gone, allegedly, for the materials. What's left behind is mostly typical waste that you'd get from your local businesses, from your local houses, electrical companies, car places. Well, so you have petroleum waste. You have things that they used to use to clean, carbon tetrachloride and things that they used to use for cleaning. And that's the stuff that we still have to find out, whether it has to be cleaned up or not. It's not going to be just the town of Wheatfield, and the town of Wheatfield is not going to drive the project. The project will still be driven by New York State DEC, and they will contact several partners, what they call financial partners, companies that have material that they can prove is in that soil. And it'll be a team approach to deciding whether or not it's a fence. Fence is probably $50,000 or $60,000. It's going to be 7,000 feet of fence. Or is it going to be additional cap? Or does something have to be moved and reburied? Maybe it has to be buried deeper. And all of those are options that are yet to be decided. I don't think it's going to happen in the next few years. I think it's going to take a while. So taking it down a notch in terms of safety doesn't mean it's actually less safe. It's actually a lot better now. But it does mean they intend to get it done. That this is not the end of the project.
Is the level, the only reason they're changing the level back up is so they can get funding, right?
They wanted to get the work done that OxyChem did at their own expense. All of that expense is all done by Occidental Chemical, including the engineers that worked for DEC. It was GHD engineers that did the work for DEC. They wanted to get all that completed before they made the change. I don't know why, frankly. I don't think Matt knew why. It's a DEC decision. Apparently they're in control of that. But they reclassified it to keep themselves in control.
I guess what I'm saying is if you do a cleanup,
you'd think it would get better, didn't it? Well, they only cleaned up the Love Canal waste. That's a 3,000 foot long, roughly 3,000 foot long landfill, probably a couple hundred feet wide.
So this is a different area then?
The Love Canal material was placed at the very end, very close to the Infant Jesus Shrine, very close to the Palatine Fathers Church. In those woods in behind their church is where they were digging. It was only a spot don't hold me to it, but it was 60 feet by 100 feet or 120 feet. But it did go 30 feet deep in the end. They had to go 30 feet deep. And that was the Love Canal material that came out of the LaSalle Expressway building. It was older material, but when the LaSalle Expressway got put in, they needed to find a place to put this material. Yes, you.
Are we sure that's the only place that Love Canal chemicals was done?
Oh, I'm fairly certain there were other places around town. We know that the county landfill's already been remediated. Certainly Gratwick Park was remediated 20 years ago, maybe.
I have another question about this,
The whole area around Bell Aerospace has problems, and that's got a project.
Shrine. They got a retaining pond right at the end of them woods there.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone tested that water to make sure you're saying nothing migrated off the property? I'm pretty sure in that retention pond, that'll be a nice place for something to migrate into, because I believe in the reports I've read from that place, the water tends to run that way. So it has to run through that pond. I think that pond might be a good place for the town to start testing for the people.
Well, all I have is the testing that was done by DEC. DEC tells me that it didn't. No. These are the people that are put there specifically for that purpose. These are our experts.
We can't do something for the people and test that. You know, how hard would it be to have someone go there and test that water? The pond.
I don't think.
Over at, I read something in the Buffalo paper about a pond near that outlet mall there that is been contaminated. You know, their retaining pond there has been contaminated, and they're blaming the mercury. I can't remember what chemical it is, but it's contaminated a pond there at the mall. So who's to say it can't seep through there? Now they have like problems of how they're going to fix it.
Well, you don't trust DEC. I have to. I have no choice.
Well, then I'll believe you if you, since water.
And just legally, what I wanted to say with regard to that, that property is owned by the church and the Palatine Fathers. We have no ability to go on private property and just say we're going to test that there's the rights, Fourth Amendment rights to privacy. If, in fact, we were able to and it, tested something, then they might be on the hook. They're not going to let us come in and start testing and then saying, oh, we got to clean up. Then we can go into anyone's backyard and say you got to clean up, and we're not allowed to constitutionally go on private property. This one is a DEC dump site where they're allowed to go in and test and remediate, but we're not allowed to just go on other people's private property.
You could probably go in there and test it then, right?
Not if it's not a site that's a dump.
They came in and asked me permission.
They're the ones that gave us the information that the water runs that way.
Right. Well, that would be up to them. We don't have the local town government. We don't have a enforcement mechanism. We don't have a DEC. We don't have an environmental. The cost of that would be prohibitive. That's why the state establishes that. But we can't just go on private property. If there's a specific dump site, previous dump, they can go on, look in. If it's town property, we can authorize it. But we can't just authorize going onto people's private property.
Yeah, DEC probably could have forced the issue. They didn't have to. They came and got my permission to go onto the property and do all the testing they wanted. And they did test 2 different years. They tested in the first year to try and locate the material. In the second year, they wanted to pin it down to a specific area. And that's the report that I do have in my office. You're welcome to look at it anytime you want.
How did that testing first come to your attention?
It was DEC came into my office and asked...
How did they come to their attention?
DEC came into my office and asked permission to go onto our property at that landfill.
But did a neighbor in that area complain to them?
They've known about this property probably since the 60s. It went on to the Superfund site in the early 80s. It's been on their books as a level 3, which means it's not a hazard. Therefore, we'll work on it when we got nothing else to do. And in time, they convinced OxyChem that it was their material. Can you get rid of your material? OxyChem obviously said yes. Yeah. So they were given permission to come onto our property. We gave them permission. They did the work. They did the report. After they did the first report, they showed it to me, came back and said, we're going to test next year. And the second round of testing had to do with the actual Love Canal material. They now had it tied down to a given area. Okay. I have nothing else. Yes, Hugh.
Who owns the property along that, on the north side of that?
I don't specifically know. It's a farmer's field of some kind. I don't know.
Does the owner of who owns that field know about the chemical there?
I would like to think they would know by now, but I don't know. I don't even know what it's. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to remember that people that have property like that, who may know about the
Don't want to know.
taxes, right, also know that they could be responsible for the cleaning. So they're not gonna go out there and volunteer, to have somebody come in and check it. And that's one of the problems with taxes.
Yeah, and it seeps over from the area, and now the owner is responsible for something that can't be seeping over the way.
Well, the owner may.
Our field's owned by Palatine.
When they bought the property, that there were taxes there.
Pardon?
People that own Palatine Fathers, Society of Catholics owns that field.
Do they? The one he's talking about?
And that's a good point. Of course, if you can track down who is responsible for those toxins, there are laws that allow you to go after that company if it still exists. But on the other hand, there is always the situation where the owner is responsible, and there are many laws that say the owner is responsible no matter if they just bought it a year ago and they had no idea that previously there was something there or something leached on. So it's a good point in that many places, if we just asked to go over the Palatine Fund and say, hey, can we test your property, if they called their lawyers, they'd say no way, most likely, because they could be liable if it can't be traced to somebody else, or partially liable, and they'd rather live with it as it is. And not picking on them specifically, but that's a well-known problem, people don't want to know what's there because then they could be responsible. And there are many cases where there are properties that people default, don't pay their taxes, and properties that just the government, whether it be the county or the cities, will not do an in-rem tax foreclosure because they don't want it. The government doesn't want to get it in their chain of title that somehow they're going to be responsible for it.
Larry just did some homework on that and says he thinks it's the Palatine Fathers that own that field.
And the pond is actually not on the Palatine Fathers, it's on the property,
Yeah, it's where the hotel is, I
where
think.
the hotel is.
Or at least behind where the hotel is. But it's right next door. Okay, I think I'm done. Our next meeting is January 25th. Right now, it's at 7:30. I don't think there are any preliminaries that evening. We'll go back out to, we've had plenty of public input, but if there is something else you want to say, feel free to say it now. Anybody?
I got one comment. Very early in the evening, we talked about being on a website and hearing, and my ears aren't the best. I've been working around heavy equipment for a lot of years. People are talking all night long. They got to come to the microphone. If I can't hear them, half of your conversation you guys are talking, I can't hear. So you have to come to the microphone. There's no sense even putting it on a website.
We got control.
No, Larry doesn't have control. Larry doesn't know how to work the controls.
Can you give that information again about Saturday with the dehydrator? You gave that address.
The notice that I was given was an invite from, I had asked for it. I wanted to see a facility. Is there something in the area? And they sent back a notice to me inviting me and the board. And I sent back another notice and asked for the town board. Excuse me, the planning board. And they agreed to that. They just wanted to know who's coming. So the only notice that I'm aware of would be for our town board and for our planning board Saturday morning at 11:30. Larry may know something I'm not aware of.
And they also extended that invite to residents within a half a mile. I tried to get that extended further, but because everything that the National Fuel Gas and FERC does is within a half a mile, they wouldn't outreach longer or further out the radius and more than a half a mile.
Are there residents within a half a mile?
Yeah, there are.
Because I know Mike said he hasn't gotten anything, so.
I have, after the meeting, if Mike wants to come up with Tim Zuber from Wendell, I have the GIS site up here. And
Okay.
for sure, River Road and Hurd Street are within a half a mile. He's real close. I mean, it depends where they're, but it looks like it's within the half mile limit for sure.
Okay.
The house is on the east side of Lancelot, east side past Deborah Lane, I think, and that's where you are? And there's 3 houses there? Yeah. It looks like all 3 of those houses are inside that half mile, for sure.
And, like I said, I don't know much about this spot. I knew that there was a dehydrator in Cambria, that it was not the same type of dehydrator that is going in here because it's a different type of gas. I just want the board to be aware. Remember when Quasar took you out there, they took you to see a place that did not have sewage sludge. They used other types of waste in there. So I feel like this might be a PR tactic, and I just want to caution you ahead of time.
Yeah. By the time we went to Quasar, we did see a sludge tank. That was the purpose, because that was when they came in and asked about putting a 10 million gallon hole in the ground and fill it with their material. That was what brought up the idea of, I want to go see one. And Art Gerbeck agreed, and Rich Muscatello also went. So.
I would also like to ask, Jen had to leave because it's her birthday today, but I've been communicating with her, and I know she would really like to go, as she's really leading the Wheatfield Action Team.
I'll send out an email request to Pat Kelly.
Okay.
Because I know that he's been communicating with Jen.
She knew nothing of it, because I texted her.
But I think Pat Kelly has emailed her or talked. No?
I don't think so.
I'll send out a request and see if
Okay.
we're at that.
Thank you.
I don't think you can get the whole committee there. They seem to be real squeamish on, but
She's a good representative.
yes, we'll see if we can get her in the door.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Lori?
Just so that you're aware, on Thursday, the 31st of December, I did call the DEC as of Thursday, the barrier, if you can call it that, at the landfill had been down for 2 weeks. That barrier is only 2 large cement blocks with either tape or a chain with a sign. It's been gone for 2 weeks. I don't know if it's on the ground. Also, so that you know, ATVers have been going through there almost every day.
Yeah.
And they're bringing the mud across the road. They go either out of the driveway, that driveway, or they go right across the road into the open land on the other side.
Yep.
So who's responsible for shoveling that if there's a medical emergency back there? I mean, they're ripping everything apart. You can see the tracks coming right across the road.
If they're coming down the right-of-way, that's not our property. Our property is where the road is, the stone road that you're saying has a barrier missing. Paul is the one that set that up.
Okay. 'Cause I know
It is a single-line chain barrier designed to stop ATVs. It's wide enough that it should be able to stop ATVs there, but you've got several thousand feet open to whomever wants to go in there.
because I go by there several times a day. I always look, and that's been down for 2 weeks. I know during better weather, a lot of times you'll see those off-road bikes coming through there. So
That's the worst thing, yeah.
my concern, if there's a medical emergency back there, it's heavy, deep with the snow or whatever, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
So the DEC was notified. I don't know what they're going to do, but
Okay. Anybody else? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.